tremendously, all because he cannot take the word no. That's all he had to do, is accept the word no. Don't bother me. I don't want to see you. This gentleman has continued to do this. I actually came here with audio stuff that I would like to have played, but I'm not going to do that tonight because I'm not ready for that at the moment. But question as to whether how much knowledge I have a lot of knowledge is what happened. I was in the house, in the yard, next door to where this gentleman was visiting. I saw him get out of his car. I saw him visit this person. I actually had, at one time in my possession, the video from the person's house that I was at of him coming and going. I have a lot of other knowledge. What I want to warn the board about right at the moment, though, is if we don't keep an open mind about what's going on with this individual, you could have some repercussions to the city. And that disturbs me if that happens. Keep an open mind. What has been said recently, there is a lot of truth. I expect when one person, history tells us when one person finally stands up to the bully, others will come out. And there's a good possibility it could.
Our next speaker is Ms. Deborah Sweat.
Okay.
Can you hear me through this?
Just lower.
Okay,
There you go.
there we go. Should I go all the way down?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. This is going to be brief. I just want to talk about our roads, and it's not the condition of them. It's the fact that neighborhood roads are extremely narrow, and we have people parking their personal vehicles and work equipment on those roads, which makes them one lane and hard to pass when two cars are going in the opposite direction. Now, I had someone pass me on the left in my own neighborhood as I was pulling into my driveway, which is not safe. Then another incident, I witnessed a vehicle stop to allow a school bus to come through on a narrow road because there was a car parked in front of them. There were also cars parked in the opposite direction on the other side of the road. So it made it hard. And so I stopped. It was me. I stopped to allow the bus to get around so they could get to the school to pick kids up. Another car passed me on the left again and kept the school bus from coming around and proceeding. Just keep in mind, these streets, residential streets, are narrow. We have to contend with personal vehicles. We've got big work vehicles parked there. We just need to be more courteous of other drivers and watch our speed. I saw a vehicle, and it's been on Facebook, doing at least 50, coming up from North Maplewood, heading south, and it was a food delivery vehicle. I won't name the institute, but I was like, this is ridiculous. A vehicle was doing at least probably 45, 50 coming through Champaign Avenue, and I followed the car just to get to the post office. So we need to be more mindful of our speed, and I don't know what law enforcement can do to help with this. I see them periodically placed in different positions around town. I've also seen the sheriff. I've also seen state police. But it has become a problem. It's been a conversation on Facebook. And these two recent incidents, I felt like I need to speak out. Be careful in residential neighborhoods and around schools, and just be kind, courteous drivers, and be mindful of others. Thank you. Thank you.
That is all we have tonight, Mayor.
All right, very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Items from the trustees. Trustees, you have anything you want to talk about?
I have something.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
to follow up with Ms. Sweat, I just wanted to, and again, I guess I'll address this to you, Chief Brown. There have been in the last 2 months, there have been two fairly, I would consider significant accidents at, coincidence, just in front of my house. It's the intersection of Sangamon and Marshall. There's a stop sign on Marshall for the north and southbound traffic, and then there's no stop sign for the east and west traffic on Sangamon. Speed limit's about 30. Not about. Well, I will say about. It's posted 30. So back in, let me talk about the two incidents, because I think again it follows with kind of what Mrs. Sweat was saying. In November there was a vehicle heading east on Sangamon, while a car heading north on Marshall may have stopped, may have not, probably kind of slowed down at that stop sign, but hit the front end. Well, both front ends met. One bumper went flying one way, the other bumper went flying the other way. Fortunately, no one was hurt. There are children in both vehicles, obviously shaken and so forth. So yeah, no one was hurt. Police came out and cleared the scene, and everybody was happy. But here, just last Tuesday, same situation. This time it was a SUV coming through that stop sign, and was coming pretty hard. So hard that the car traveling west on Sangamon, it was hit rear driver's side, and hit it so hard that the driver tried to overcompensated for the impact and landed right in front of me. So of course I stopped, and neighborly thing. But I don't know what to do. I don't know how fast the cars were going. I know in both cases I don't think either car stopped. One thing that I noticed, that it seems like the stop signs are back. I don't know if that makes sense. Back from the curb. So for folks who stop, and well, I say me. For I who stop, I feel like I have to creep forward to be able to see the oncoming traffic. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not I fear for someone's life, I guess. Especially after seeing this last one, because it was pretty. Well, yeah, it was pretty bad. So that's my. Well, I mean, is there something we do for that? I know at one time. One more thing. I know at one time we would have, I don't know, a traffic counter or something that seemed the speed thing, right? You would see your speed as you were approaching, but that's been a few years since we've.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely put a speed sign, a digital speed sign then over there. We'll have to wait until, in the winter, they don't work. They operate off of solar, so it'll have to wait till the spring sometime.
Okay.
We can look at that intersection, see how many accidents we've had there also.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'm sure Public Works can go out and make sure the stop sign's in a proper position too.
Yeah. I mean,
We can definitely check the alignment on the stop bar and the stop signs.
Okay.
And then double check it could be a visual constraints too, it sounds like. So the sight triangle might be blocked, and so maybe there's something we can do with that. Or create an ordinance to add additional stop signs. Potentially.
Okay. What about reducing the speed? Like I said, the one, and it's a residential street that I'm on. It's 30. That seems like a lot to be in a neighborhood. But
That's something for further conversation along the same lines, but we can look into that also.
okay. Thanks. I appreciate it, and yeah, I guess we all need to make sure we're slowing down. I do have one more.
Go ahead.
One more,
Floor's
right?
still yours.
Thank you. So, over the past few months or so, I've just been thinking about trying to follow up on some of the topics that we've discussed here at the board meetings, and what residents have mentioned to me. And I reached out to the administrator, and we're gonna sit down and talk more. But I just want to name the three things that the administrator and I are gonna continue to discuss, and just so folks know that I'm on it, and trying to do my civic duty. One of the things we discussed is an update or having an update with the crime-free housing program. Seems like it's been a while since we've had that, and I'd like to hear some feedback. How it's working, what types of instances we've evicted folks, and how the landlords are dealing with this, and just an overall ball of wax of how things are going, right? The second is the gunshot detection system, and I'm sure I'm not saying it right, but again, now that's a new program, a new tool that we use, and I just would like to know, how it's going. Right, I know we're still evaluating, if I'm correct. So just are we seeing, are our police force getting to crime scenes quicker due to the gunshot detection, or is it 911 that's beating us to the punch, if you will, and then just whatever other data that can be shared with that. And then the third thing is the way back when, and it just slipped my mind until recently. We talked about having a study done to help us understand DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion in our village, and how we can better promote our village in multiple ways. So. Again, that's another thing that the administrator and I discussed, and we'll be meeting Thursday, bright and early. I'll bring the hot chocolate. So thanks. I just wanted to give that update.
You can bring us some, too.
You want some?
Yeah.
I'll bring some.
All right.
Something, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
So you and I have talked about this a hot second, Mr. Administrator, but I wanted to give you an update about the driving situation over on Veterans Parkway. And so there's no longer just one lane that they're using to drive across the grass. Now there are 2 lanes. And so they're making it, I guess, so that they can pass one another. I don't know. But I am concerned it's starting to look really, really bad. And I do appreciate the sign being fixed and straightened up and put back in position. But can you give an update on what the plan is to address the people driving across the grass?
Yeah, obviously, we recognize there's an issue there. We've come up with a number of different options. Not everybody likes all of them. And our attorney particularly did not care for 2 of them. That being said, it's difficult over the winter to put in anything permanent because you're going to have settling that occurs during the spring. So that is a topic that we're now starting to get into a little more heavy as to exact what our options can be. Obviously, we tried to put a natural touch to that location, which did not work. And so now we're going to have to look at structures that have less give in them than newborn trees, and that's most likely the direction that we're going to go. I was all in favor of a 6-foot ditch. That was not approved by our attorney. I also thought maybe a 6-foot hill. However, the chief didn't like the idea of going out and determining how high certain cars could get before they landed 2 blocks over. So with that being said, obviously we need to look at what's going to be a lasting, but also we would like to do something that also has some attractive appearance to it rather than just putting up concrete barricades.
All right. Thank you so much.
No, stop. Okay, any other trustee with a comment?
I have
Go ahead.
several things I'd like to bring forward.
All right.
I'm asking these questions because I've been approached by citizens of the community that have asked me these questions, so I didn't know the answer, so I'm going to ask these questions. What company is laying fiber optic cable throughout the village? Is the village being compensated for the use of our facilities that they are using for storing their supplies and equipment when they're not in use? Is this entity going to enhance the village communication system publicly and privately? Those are the questions I've been asked. That's one thing.
Well, may I answer those
Sure.
don't get
Before we go
lost in
forward,
what I'm
have
supposed to
several, so
answer.
go ahead.
That's fine. So Connexus is the company that is doing the work on the fiber optics. And their installation of the fiber optics is done underneath the Illinois Broadband Act. So through the Illinois Broadband Act, there are certain responsibilities as well as opportunities that they have. We are not allowed to discriminate against by choosing which companies we will and will not work with. They're all allowed to utilize our right-of-way, and they're able to do that at no cost. So that's part of the Illinois Broadband Act. That's nothing that we implement locally. There have been some discussions about whether or not we should permit that type of activity. That is not currently part of our ordinance. There are questions about whether or not the state statute allows us to do that and to what degree. So I think that perhaps answers your questions. In regards to where they're storing equipment, we are not charging for them to store or stage their equipment.
So this is just a private company.
That's correct.
Will they,
I'm sorry, yes, you had asked that part, and I failed to address that. So they're a private company. They're going to be offering broadband services to the residents of Rantoul. You'll have the ability, just as you do with other broadband services, to reach a private agreement with them, and then you will pay them for their services.
so the village is not going to have anything to do with it, and it's just a private company doing their thing.
That's correct.
Don't have any say over what they're doing.
I don't want to say we have no say over what they're doing, but the Illinois Broadband Act is very broad in what they allow the companies to do while installing their equipment.
Digging up on the easements through our front yards and everything doesn't make any difference.
They're allowed to do that as long as they restore the yard to similar or better conditions.
All right? That's what people have been asking.
Yep.
Can I interject one part? Driveways, we've had driveways that have been cut out, the concrete, and then just put gravel back in, they're gonna come back later?
They are required to repair that or replace it to a condition similar or better than it was when they found it. And yes, they will be coming back at the end of the completion of their project to do both yards and driveways.
Okay.
Just one piece of information on that. If you do have questions, we have the contact information for the people to get you at Public Works if you have a complaint about that, to make sure that we don't miss you for your driveways and road.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to know, and people of the public should know that, you know, to moving forward. All right. Go ahead.
Sorry.
He's
So-
got a question.
Jake, did you say that we should contact you if we need a driveway or yard repair or?
Well, we have the information for the people that you would contact, is
That's-
what I mean.
So
Yeah.
we should inform folks that, yes, contact these people?
Yes.
So what we're saying, trustee, is if work is not completed in the spring, after they've done the installation, then please reach out to Public Works, and we will provide you with the contact information of who to reach out to.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I have a
keep going.
few other things. On base, we have several large buildings that are unoccupied and in very poor shape. What steps have we taken to get them removed or torn down? Where are we at with that?
I guess I would want more specifics as to which building, trustee.
Pretty large buildings out there.
The reality of it is, most of the buildings in the base area are either sold or rented. So there aren't a lot of vacant buildings left out in the base area. So again,
Vacant for years. Well, the old hospital's out there.
okay, so that is privately owned. That is not owned by the village. So that one in particular is privately owned. So if you're, I'm sorry, I guess I was thinking about properties that we own. If you're talking about privately owned properties, yeah, we take them through the court system and trying to get them to abate the violations. As you can tell, they don't do that very quickly or successfully, which means we have to take them back through the court system, get even further fines issued. And that's one of the problems that we have with the court process. If you have a violation on your property, you know, we cite you, we send you the letter, we cite you, we give you time to fix it, you don't fix it, we go through the court process, which is not a short process, we get to the end of the court process, you're found guilty, that comes with a fine, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to be abated. And so then after a period of time, if it's still not abated, then we go back through the court system. We have the ability to lien the properties, but I think what you've seen in many of these cases, they either don't sell or they sell under a tax sale, at which point all of the liens are eliminated. So it's unlikely we get our money back when we go about liening some of those properties. So yes, we're on owners all the time. One of the new tricks that we've discovered is just as we get through the court process, a judgment's been made, then they find somebody else to buy the building. In some cases, they have been out of the country and are buying the property, I would say sight unseen, but in one case, they had a picture of what the building looked like. Unfortunately, it was from 1985. And so when they sent us the picture of, why are you sending me violation notices? This is what my property looks like. Then we had to send them a picture back and said, no, this is what your property looks like today versus your photo from 40 years ago. So, trustee, it's a very long and tedious process and unfortunately does not often yield positive results. Doesn't mean we don't stay on them.
Okay. What about properties? Do we have a list of properties in the village that are not up to code, that are unoccupied? And do we pursue the property owners to upgrade the properties to get them condemned and demolished?
Yes, yes, and when we have money available, yes. So yes, we have a list of those properties. We have a list of those properties, one, because we try to work with either the owner of the property, or in some cases, we're even working with banks who hold the mortgage to the property. Often we end up mowing those, and so Recreation Department has that list because they end up mowing a number of those properties. Yes, we will pursue them through the courts. Yes, we will apply liens to those properties. Again, unless they are sold at an arm's length sale, we don't often get our money back in that liening process. And at times when we've been able to have money available, particularly through the CDBG program, and those properties qualify, then we are demolishing those properties when we're able to indicate to the courts that those properties are of such a nature that demolition is the only option.
How many of those properties do we have approximately? You have any idea?
Trustee, I don't off the top of my head, but I'll email all of that to you tomorrow.
The code department come up with that? And
Yes.
is that information? People ask me these questions, and I don't know. Okay. How much money are we spending on the downtown streetscape, and when do we have to spend those funds by?
Yeah, if I may, Trustee, good evening. So we still have the $3 million State of Illinois DCO grant that we'll be utilizing for that. We have the $1.8 million in ARPA funds that the board allocated towards that. We have the T-Mobile grant we received, you might recall, of $50,000. Mm-hmm. And we also have some water funds that have been budgeted for that water, Public Works water account funds that have been budgeted for that as well. So to date, we've did the engineering. We have the utility plans. The plan is to, or if I may just go on a little bit further, the plan is to do a bid and do the construction of the utility infrastructure this spring, with the construction of the streetscaping to follow in the summer and fall. The ARPA funds, we have 2 years, roughly, to spend those. The DCO grant, originally, we got the grant award in September of last year, excuse me, even though it was executable January of 2023, but we had 2 years. So the end of this year with a one-time extension, so potentially summer of next year for the DCO grant funds. So we should be well in advance of that, of getting the project completed in this coming fall into winter. Does that answer your question?
So we don't have to have the ARPA funds spent by the end of this year? We got a year extension? Is that what happened?
It's 2026 at this point. Yes.
Okay. Another question asked me, have the buildings downtown, we're going to do a streetscape through there, the buildings downtown, on one side of the street, most of the buildings have been upgraded and taken care of. That's the north side. And on the south side, have those buildings been inspected and are they up to code, or what's the status of those buildings?
Yes, they've been inspected. Not all of them are up to code. We currently have some property owners on the south side that are in court, and we are working through the judicial process to abate those violations.
Are we going to be able to get those taken care of before we spend all this money on the downtown streetscape?
That would certainly be our desire, trustee, but when those properties are in the hands of private owners and investors, it's up to them to put some money into it as well.
Because people have been bending my ears saying it's a waste of money to spend $3 or $4 million to do a streetscape if you got a piece of garbage sitting on the side of it, you know?
Well, we certainly wouldn't suggest it's a waste of money, trustee. We do strongly believe that when you have public investment, private investment will follow. I think we've been very fortunate that in the downtown area, private investment has taken the lead. We're going to come in the middle. We certainly will have the force that the judicial system provides us to force the property owners to bring their buildings up to code to the level that is allowed us, and we will certainly do that. But it is going to require some of the owners in that downtown area to make private investment or to sell the property to people who will.
Okay, that's what the public needs to know.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
And I won't do this for all your questions. At least
That's
I don't
fine.
think. At least
Go
I don't think
ahead.
so at one time, there was a downtown committee, planning committee. Is that committee still meeting, active, and?
So there's actually two committees. One is the committee that Mr. Milliken has been working with to actually design the plans for the redevelopment, and I believe they have plans to meet here in the near future now that some of the architectural and engineering work is done. There is also a downtown group made up of business owners in the downtown area. They too have continued to meet and are identifying projects that they can do in conjunction with the renovation that's occurring.
I hadn't heard, so thanks.
I have one 10-second question.
All right, go ahead, Gary.
There used to be a list, Mr. Administrator, of empty properties, vacant lots for sale. Has that been updated, or is that still available?
So what we're going to do, we've kind of stepped back to take a look again. We sold off many of those vacant lots. We're now kind of taking a step back, reevaluating all of the lots that we have left, as well as there are people who have contacted us about, hey, will you take this lot? Or others who have identified lots specifically that they would like to have. So we've stepped back at this point. We're going to evaluate all of that probably over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, have another list. If the lots that are available aren't ones that we have already identified for some future use. So that's why we want to evaluate it, to make sure we're not giving away lots we may need, or that we're accepting lots that nobody's going to want. But over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, we'll have a list.
You have anything?
He still has more.
All right, Terry, you have more?
Well, my last question is similar to what he just asked, is do we have a list of properties in the village that are not up to code and unoccupied? And do we pursue the property owners to upgrade them or get them condemned and demolished? So that's pretty much the same kind of question, except, not vacant properties, but properties that have condemned. But also, along with that, a question had been asked of me, how many violations have we had this year through the code department of inoperable vehicles and trash for residencies?
That's not a number I know off the top of my head, trustees, so I will look that up in the system tomorrow, and again, I'll email that out to all of the trustees tomorrow.
Now, the people are asking these questions that approached me, these are concerned citizens that want our village to be attractive because we're having lots of visitors come to our community, and they are concerned that they want our community to be attractive, and these people will come back to our community and, not come here and be disappointed in what they are seeing here. And that's why these people are asking all these questions.
And we have the same goals that they do.
And I think that's why we need to express that to all the people and let them know the things that we are doing, to keep our community upgraded and in good condition, and we're taking care of things that need to be done. And so the public needs to know that, and that's why I'm asking these questions for these people that ask me these things. So thank you very much, and I'm done.
All right, very good. All right, very good. The only thing I have is to let you know that the bids came back this afternoon at 2 o'clock for the ICBM reconstruction, and so we'll be taking that to that committee on February the 21st at 5:30 p.m. So, and then that the bids will be revealed to that committee, and then we'll be trying to make a decision based off of those bids. That's all I have. All right, items from the clerk. Madam Clerk, you have one item there. It's the minutes of the January 9, 2024 board meeting. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, Mr. Mayor, they are submitted for approval unless the board has any corrections that they wish to make. They will go forward as they were submitted in the packet.
All right, sounds good. All right, we have items from the administrator now about health insurance brokerage service.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and to the board. As I begin this, I do want to introduce Mr. Michael Lynch. He is here with me this evening on behalf of the brokerage service that we're recommending to you tonight. If you do have any specific questions, certainly he is the expert in that area and is more than happy to answer those questions. Also, at your dais this evening, you did receive a copy of the proposal that was submitted by our recommended service. The administration elected to seek a request for qualifications from Health Insurance Broker Services related to our benefits program. We did that back in November of 2023 with submittals due December 8th of 2023. In January, the committee, which was made up of Angela Schultz, Deborah Sage, Jake McCoy, Luke Humphrey, Sarah Simpkins, and myself, met with several firms. We gave each of them 90 minutes for presentation and question and answer. We had 10 different committees who submitted proposals. We decided to interview 7 of them. From those 7, we then selected Clemens Insurance as the preferred candidate. Just so you know, people always ask, what are the terms of contracts like this? This particular brokerage service works on a year-by-year basis. That's because, and Mr. Lynch can certainly address this, they believe if we're not happy with their service, we shouldn't be locked into a long-term agreement with them. It also forces them on an annual basis to keep us happy, and I have no doubt that this group will do that. Also, there is no direct cost to the village. The village is fully insured, and commissions are payable to the licensed broker, subject to the insurance company's standard contract language. So you will not see a direct payment to Clemens Insurance on a monthly basis for their services. Having gone through all of the different proposals, what I can share with you is there were a number of items that stuck out in regards to the presentation and the meetings that we had with Clemens Insurance. One, they were incredibly based on customer service, and when we spoke to their references were also extremely high with their remarks as it related to customer service. That is absolutely imperative to us. Something else that was very important in this process right now for most of our employees and our retirees, when they have an issue as it relates to their benefits or to a claim, they're contacting one of our staff members, Angela Schultz. The issue with that is that they are providing information that may be in violation of HIPAA. And we want to be incredibly careful with the amount of information that's being provided to one of our staff members, who then has to turn around and relay that information to our brokerage service. We believe it is a far more efficient system and probably more appropriate system for the employees to reach out directly to our broker. Not only does Clemens Insurance provide that type of service, and we met the individuals who will be providing that service to our employees, but they do that at no additional cost to us. And so we felt that was also a feather in their cap. One of the things that we have not had available to us before are COBRA services provided to us right now. Our finance division is managing all of our COBRA benefits. That is a very tedious task. That is something that Clemens Insurance has agreed that they will now be doing for us, and they will also be providing that at no additional cost to us. So there were just a number of services that we were already receiving that they are going to continue. Many others they are bringing to the table for the first time, and we're very excited about our partnership. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Lynch, give him the opportunity to make a few comments, give you the opportunity to ask any questions you may have, either then of him or myself.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would start by saying that one of the things that Ms. Schultz had struck me some time ago, that we are a very needy group. And I think she meant that in jest, but more to the point, all my groups are needy in this day and age. And I don't criticize them for that, but that's what kind of individual agency and so on groups want in this day and age. Part of it's because of Obamacare, ACA, Affordable Care Act, the changes that were made in the laws that affect us in the group insurance business. Almost turned us into attorneys rather than insurance brokers. And I am not an attorney, but I'm a well-versed insurance broker. And 40 years in this business, I've enjoyed it. But I will make a couple of points real quickly. I don't want to take your time, but we have a good idea of what's available to you here in this marketplace. One of the sad things about the marketplace is we used to have 13, 15, 17 carriers that we could go to compete in the marketplace. We don't have that anymore. In this general location, we have 4, maybe 5 if we push it. But right now, you've got one of the better carriers in the marketplace, and that's not to denigrate Health Alliance or anybody else that's out there. I'm just saying Blue Cross is a quality company. They do a quality job. We know them very well because outside of the Cook County area, we are the largest downstate Blue Cross Blue Shield broker. And that's factual and we've been made aware of that. I would say that several things that were made clear to us in our discussions with Mr. Eisenhower and his staff. there are things to do. Analyzing your claims experience, as an example, is one of the big things that your first year of the contract with Blue Cross, it's going to become important to get to know the group. And that's not a criticism of people having claims, it's a fact. But we need to understand those things. So when we make a report to you and you get a renewal, why has this happened, and the reasons behind them. Secondly, every year, and it's coming up in July, we're going to get a renewal. And if you get a decrease, I would be very shocked. Not because I know too much, because that doesn't happen in the marketplace. It has happened, but I don't know about today's age.
Right.
But my point is, we will go to market. We will check the marketplace. We will do that in the health coverage. We will do that in the ancillary services coverage. And there are a variety of things that we think right now, by looking at this scenario, that are in play for us to add here for the contract. We do all the evaluation, we do all the preparation. Another scenario that I would like to just really quickly is that we'll do all the ongoing communication for the village to the employees. Scott mentioned that you have a benefit admin system right now. It's a very good one. We buy that service, the top of the line service that Employee Navigator has. We give it to the village at no cost, along with the COBRA services. And I would say we're going to manage that but a company under our auspices will take care of that, relieving you of the legalities of COBRA, which can become onerous. And I'm just not making stories up, but if it's not done according to Hoyle, nobody wants that on their shoulders, nor does anybody want to see somebody not get the coverage that they need. And they will collect the monies. You're not involved in that or anything of that nature. Last but not least, I think the communication. We will advise and consult with your staff about federal compliance. And that's another thing that we will give to you folks on an ongoing basis with no charge. Federal compliance has a lot to do. Right now, before we take over, we're gathering information to send in a zip file so that your benefit administration system can have loaded into it all the compliance notices that are necessary and mandated by the federal government. So by the time we get to a takeover position, you'll be ready, we'll be ready, but there'll be ongoing conversations about the importance of handling different matters, I would say, is the greatest thing. And so having said that, I'm open to any questions, and hope I haven't taken up too much time.
Anyone?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go
Mayor.
ahead, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Mays, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. I guess what is going to be the change for the employee? Are we changing the networks? Well, I know we'll be going, sounds like we'll be going with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Good question.
How's it going to affect the employees?
Right now, you've got the large network, PPO, which is the most expansive network in the state of Illinois. Then, for lack of a better term, you have a smaller Blue Choice network. And there's another program that's been around for a couple of years that we think may be applicable, but has combination of both of those networks in them. So in direct answer to your question, no, we won't be changing networks, but we might have something to add to it that will give somebody a different option. The program is called Blue Options, as a matter of fact. We think it might be a good program. The beginning stage is the BCE network, which is in place right now for 2 of the 3 programs. And then you leave it and you go to the large PPO. Well, there's 1 deductible here, a 2nd deductible, and then a 3rd out-of-network deductible. So for certain peoples, that might be a good approach if they've got a particular, and we haven't discussed this with anybody on the committees. I'm just saying, there'll be options. Now, when you go to market, you're looking at everything, and I've made a couple of comments. So
only there would the change in carriers probably bring up a change of network.
Okay.
And I think of all the major carriers, there are probably good options out there. We know what Health Alliance had here, and they're one of them. But many times they like to see entities leave and stay gone for 24 months or something of that nature, so they can get out from under maybe possible, large claim activity. But we won't know that until we get to the renewal and see what goes on.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have a question for Mr. Lynch?
Thank you very much for having me.
Good seeing you, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch, and I would mention they have offices in Bloomington, Kankakee, and Watseka.
Yes. We've got a Kankakee office, a Watseka office, and the home office is in Bloomington. There's about 35 folks over there on Empire Avenue as you go into Bloomington. Watseka, our little town, which I was born and raised in. I live in Kankakee now. Real quick, my first trek through Rantoul was going to St. Malachi's. There was a family here who's been long gone. Conlins were their last name.
Yeah.
And they took us to the armory to go skating one day.
Yeah.
So my dad said, well, we're going to stop and go to Mass before we go to that armory.
Yeah.
And we were there for either the 7:30 or 8 o'clock Mass.
Yeah.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, very good. Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, item 9 is items from Human Resources. There's 2, January 2024 Village Applicant Demographic Report and the Village Career Opportunities. Deb, would you like to expand on that? Anything you need to say about that? All right, those will be the 2 items that will come your way. All right, items from the Police Department. Ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 2, Law Enforcement of the Village Code in connection with appointments. Chief, you want to tell us about that?
We're asking the board to amend the language in this section and changing the language that would allow the chief to select anyone on the register. Currently, it's limited to the top 8, or we can move elsewhere for minority or female candidates. We think this language still accomplishes our goals without maybe putting us in a position where we're violating the Constitution.
Okay. All right. Any questions or concerns? Terry?
Are you having trouble filling the spots with the top 8 or what?
No, I mean, the way it's written now is, we can look at the top 8 candidates or go anywhere on the list for underrepresented candidates, traditionally underrepresented candidates. Our goal is to, our dream would be to have a department that, looks like the community,
Don't we have that now?
Well, I think we got some work to do. So by changing that, I mean, it just eliminates that language, and we can go elsewhere on the list. So.
I have a question.
All right,
Would you
Gary.
have to go to a new list, or
No.
can you use the existing list?
No, we would use the existing list, and the list is still compiled by the Police and Fire Commission to ensure it's fair and to everybody.
I guess I don't understand why you would want to go off at the top take somebody that's not at the top of the list and go down the list when you have people at the top of the list.
Well, not always are the people at the top of the list the best candidates, I will say. We have
Why are they at the top of the
in
list if they're not the best candidates?
well, because they can test well. Because they can test well. So, I mean, we're gone from the days where we, had to pick the top 1. It used to be you had to pick the top 1, and you had no choice.
Right.
You discovered that was a terrible idea because
I
Not
understand
everyone
that,
is
but you
up
got 8 people up there, and it seems like you could find somebody that,
Yeah.
in the top 8, that would be a good candidate. In your testing,
Yeah, that's not always the case.
in your testing, do you not have, what do I want to say, character and personality testing as part of it, rather than just physical and mental
Well,
testing?
it's not physical testing anymore for the register. It's a written test, so there are questions related to those items, but only as much as a written test can measure that.
I would think you definitely need to have people with communication skills to be able to deal with the public. I mean, someone can read a book and do well and test well, but if they can't communicate with people at different levels, they be society levels or, you know, or educational levels, there wouldn't be a good fit, and temperament. So I can understand how this would.
That's what I'm asking. Part of the test is not part of that,
You can't.
determining whether people communicate well with people.
Not adequately, no. I mean, there is an oral board piece of it,
You
and
need to revise your
but-
test.
Well, that's the Police and Fire Commission, and when you have a 10-minute interview to get or 5-minute, 10-minute interview, there's only so much you can glean from
And that
that.
determines the ranking of the 8 people?
Yeah.
Like I said, you need to revise your test and the ranking system.
All right. We'll talk to the Police and Fire Commission about it.
I guess if
Yeah, Sam?
I jump in, so is the reason that you're looking to go anywhere on the list just because you can't find any candidates that would fit our department in the top 8? Is that?
Well, there may be candidates in the top 8, but there may be a better candidate who's number 9. Right now, I'm able to go anywhere on the list for minority candidates and women. However, with the recent Supreme Court decision with educate, I think that may be found to be discriminatory and against the Constitution. So that's why we are asking for this change, so we can still work on accomplishing our goals if needed, and give us some leadway in who we hire.
It almost sounds like we just get rid of the list then.
Trying not to be in that position.
Right. But it sounds like then we don't need a list. We go to.
Well, I mean, the Police and Fire Commission has to establish a register. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further comments, guys? Questions? All right, very good. Chief, bring it forward. Okay. Next is items from the fire department, and Chad, I think you have a few items that you'd like to bring the board up on and discuss. So I'll let you handle the water rescue that you want to talk about and the award from Salvation Army.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. Last week, as you guys are well aware, if you travel through Walmart in the month of December, Mrs. Carter does a very good job of getting the fire department out for Salvation bell ringing. This year for 2023, the Rantoul Fire Department was awarded the Heroes Award on behalf of the Salvation Army, so I did want to pass that along. This is a department-wide event that we do each year, so I wanted to pass it along. And then also, tomorrow evening, February the 7th, Wednesday, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., we'll be hosting our annual water rescue, ice rescue at Radinsky Park on Grove Street. You'll see multiple fire apparatus from other departments. We do have some other departments coming in. Cornbelt will be here from Mahomet, Gifford, Ludlow. So there will be quite a few departments out there from 6 to 9. And then one last thing, Mayor, just to get ahead of it, March the 20th, we'll do our open house of our new substation on Maplewood from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I will bring that again next month, but I just wanted to get that out there. We'll invite the public to come see the addition that we've been able to do over the last few months.
Okay. And the water rescue demonstration will be when, tomorrow?
Tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay. right, very good. Thank you, Chief. There are no items from the comptroller. There are no items from the building and environmental safeties. Items 14 is items from community development. The first one is an ordinance approving rezoning petition ZP 23-3 and amending the official zoning map for 1310 South Century Boulevard. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this request, Matt Punman, doing business as New Kids Investment Group LLC, is requesting that the property located and commonly known as 1310 South Century Boulevard be rezoned from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C4 Commercial Industrial to allow for the construction of mini warehouses at that location. So this site is on the west side of Century, right on the corner of Wheat Avenue, and is approximately 7.5 acres in size. Property is currently vacant, undeveloped, and was most recently utilized as a tree nursery. The petitioner is a prospective purchaser. Actually, I think since that point he's actually closed on the sale. He is the owner of the property at this point. The petitioner has indicated the development would consist of construction of 4 buildings that would contain 180 self-storage units approximately. The storage facility would be well lit and enclosed with a fence with access controlled by automatic gates. I would note that Mr. Punman is here this evening and would be available to answer his questions as well. No correspondence was received from any of the neighboring property owners. This property, like I mentioned, has been vacant. There's a number of vacant properties around it. This would be north of Little Wings, would be kind of the most occupied thing near it, right across Century from the airport. The Plain Zoning Commission met last month in January and approved the request by a 6-to-1 vote. Staff does support the approval of the request as well. With that, I answer any questions. As I said, Mr. Punman is here as well to answer questions.
Board, do you have any questions about this item?
Construction right away, I guess, once approved?
I think he's already submitted his building plans for permitting, so I think in the spring he would be under construction.
Anyone else? No comments? All right, very good. Then we'll bring it forward. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, your second item, Christopher, is ordinance approving zoning petition ZP 23-4, amending Chapter 46 of the Village Code in connection with the zoning ordinance barbed wire fencing.
Yes, thank you. So again, this is the Plain Zoning Commission met on this last month as well. A little bit of history. So the zoning ordinance currently prohibits installation use of barbed wire on property anywhere in the village. However, with that said, there are a number of properties where barbed wire has previously been installed and still exists. I think that number is about 30 plus locations. Number of businesses, obviously some village properties, some other utility properties, all have barbed wire today. You may recall also that there was a business owner that came before the board and the commission, I think late summer of last year, talking about problems with his property in terms of safety and security, and having an indication that barbed wire may help him with that problem. So based on those discussions, the commission's desire to have a discussion on that, staff did look at where those locations of barbed wire were in existence, also other neighboring communities' requirements as it relates to barbed wire. And then based on the feedback from the commission, the change to the ordinance language was prepared. So this change before you to the zoning ordinance would remove that blanket prohibition on the use of barbed wire. The change would allow for barbed wire to be placed on fences that are a property located in a non-residential zoning district. So not anything but the 4 residential zoning districts. So if it's a single-family residence, 2-family, multifamily, you would not be allowed to have barbed wire in those locations, but any other properties you would. So long as a property is not adjacent to a property that is a residentially zoned property or a residential use. And then additionally, the commission felt it was important that strands of barbed wire would have to be at least 6 feet above ground level in their placement, so they couldn't be any lower than 6 feet. As I mentioned, Plain Zoning Commission then met last month, recommended approval of this petition by a 6-to-1 vote. So I will just reflect on the ordinance before you again. So you have the entire section of the zoning ordinance as it relates to fences and walls and those requirements. So you get to the last page of that where the prohibition existed, and I'll just read it one more time. As far as what the proposed language is. A fence or wall equipped with barbed wire shall only be erected or maintained on property in a non-residential zoning district and shall not be located adjacent to a property in a residential zoning district or a residential use. Any strands of such wire shall be at least 6 feet above ground level. So that's what the commission's desires were. There was no other comments or any testimony given to the commission. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board, do you have any questions on this item? I'm not seeing any, Chris, so we'll move forward. All right. Item 15 are items from recreation. Item A is a landscape installation and maintenance contract with Deemed Landscaping Incorporated in the amount of $32,609. Luke?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening to the board. This is our annual agenda item that provides for a one-year contract extension with Deemed Landscaping for the landscape installation and maintenance for the 2024 season. The scope of work is consistent with the 2023 season. The only adjustment is at the youth center, we will be landscaping around the north side as well as the east side. The proposed contract is for the period from April 22nd of 24 through November 22nd of 24 at a cost of $32,609. In addition, $140 per occurrence for watering and de-weeding on an as-needed basis. This contract provides beautification of village properties by an efficient and professional landscaping contractor who has provided quality service to the village since 2019. Looking to move on, you can get this approved next week so that we can include it in the budget discussions if the board desires. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, the subject's open for questions, board. Anyone? All right, very good. No questions, we'll move forward, Luke. All right, thank you, board. Let's go to item 16 in the Public Works. Item 16, item A, a contract for repair of Prospect Substation Transformer, 12,000 kVA with a Sunbelt Solomon in the amount of $254,181. Approval for equipment rental in the amount of $12,000 and a contingency fund in the amount of $15,000. Jake?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, trustees. This item is in concern with the industrial area transformers that we've had troubles with over the last couple months. So this transformer will be shipped off, but it's basically serving the industrial area as we've been discussing, and the oil samples were taken from the unit, and dissolved gases were found inside. So basically that means that there was breakdown and internal failure inside of the transformer, so we're going to have to ship it off to Sunbelt Solomon, who will take it and inspect it and rebuild the transformer at their site. The village has collaborated with BHMG and some other people to look at the transformer beforehand, and they all came up with the same thing, that there's no real initial direct cause of what happened to the transformer, so we'll get a better idea why it failed when it's in Sunbelt Solomon's hands. But the proposal from them for the $254,181 would include shipping, repair, an on-site installation, and it would also, we would need to include the equipment for the crane and the rental of the crane to be able to pick the unit up onto the shipping cart. And then the additional contingency would just be in case we need any other funds included. This has been allocated in the 2024 budget line item. Again, this is kind of an emergency type acquisition, and we would like to have your approval on it so we can get it moving forward. The lead time is about 8 to 9 months, so that's when we can expect the transformer to be shipped back, 8 to 9 months from now. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Randy's here also if you have any questions about electrical failures or what happened.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions on this subject? Okay, very good. Anyone else? All right, we'll move forward. All right, Jake, thank you. Let's move to item B. The purchase of a 69 kV switch equipment for the Prospect Substation from Ameren Services Company in the amount of $39,677.73. Tell us about it.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is in the same area, the same substation. We had purchased or moved around these transformers, and when we did move the transformer around, the switch gear that is above the transformer that goes to the 69 lines was incorrectly built, so we had to buy a new set of switch gear equipment, and Ameren Company actually had a set, so we've got a quote from them for $39,677.73 to purchase these switches for the Prospect Substation, which would go above the transformer described in the previous item. Any questions about that?
Anyone?
Did I miss anything on that?
Nope. I think I have a question.
All right, Sam has a
Might
question.
be
Go.
Like a novice, but so what was constructed incorrectly?
Well, every one of these transformers is built differently, like physically sized differently, so it's the switches above it. So the switch gear that connects it to the high lines was not what we needed to fit this new transformer. So we had to get the switches.
And so this is the piece of equipment that we moved from somewhere else to replace something else that needed replacing. This was last month's discussion, right? Or 2 months ago, I think. 2 months ago, right? Okay.
Yeah, Sam. Basically, it's like Jake was saying, we had to put a different size transformer in that we had as a spare out of East Sub by the sewer plant. We moved it into the Prospect Sub, put it in place. It's a different size. It wasn't as big as the one that we had in there, but it was going to help us with our load out there. We put that in place, and then once we put that in place, we realized that the switch wasn't going to line up with that transformer. So I checked on another switch. Our vendors, it was all 48 to 52 weeks out, and we felt we needed it quicker than that. I reached out to Ameren. They actually had something that'll work for us. And that's what we're asking for the.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember the conversation, and I remember, I think you saying, Randy, that we just need it, and hopefully it lasts until this, whatever it is, supposed to be coming. So,
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? All right, then we'll bring that one forward. Item C is amend ordinance 2731, authorizing funding of the wastewater treatment plant and systems, phase 1 of the water pollution control loan program in the aggregate principal amount of $18,215,000. Jake?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, this loan agreement was an ordinance that we approved in last February, about a year ago, and the board approved a loan agreement with the Illinois EPA for $11.5 million, and so we went through the official bidding process for the wastewater treatment plant, which you guys are pretty well aware of, and as you may have heard, that the bids came in significantly higher than projected cost, and so as part of that, we've been scrambling to try to figure out where to get the funding from. So the bids came in, and the construction came in at 15.5, $88,207. So we sent that off to the EPA with just kind of a notice of intent saying, hey, do you have any extra funds around that we could use? We also kind of came up with another idea to use a separate funding mechanism. So I'll go to this next sheet here, I think. Oh. Okay. So basically the whole cost now, with the design engineering, the construction engineering, and the construction, plus a contingency, you're at almost 18 million total project. And as you can see that the loan was for 11.5, so there's a difference of about 7 in there. And so we went to the EPA, and luckily they said they would be able to help fund it with more of their pot of money. So the programmer has given us some more money to go to it, and go to this next slide, and it kind of goes over the financing situation. So the original contract there in yellow is for $11.5 million. And when we set up the financing and when we did our engineering study for the rates to make sure that we had enough money, it was based on a loan amount of $11.5 million. So that's the yellow column. And it was at the rate of 1.36% for 20 years, and that amount was going to be $660,000 a year annually over 20 years. Basically, what the EPA in the blue line has given us with the first loan was the benefit of $3.3 million worth of loan forgiveness. So this is all going to sound very confusing, but I'll kind of wrap it up in the end to tighten it up. But basically, they gave us loan forgiveness, which we didn't have in the first calculation for $3 million. So our loan amount for that section in blue is $8.2 million, and so it calculates at $471,000 per year. And then the green section is the additional EPA loan funding that we'll need. That we just secured and would be in, after we change the ordinance, would go to this amount, would be an additional $6.715 million. So, and that would calculate up to, and then we're also getting more loan forgiveness. So and that amount would be just over $5 million. So basically, the gray is where we're actually going to be at. So we're going to be at 18.2 million total project cost, which includes engineering, construction, included the interest, it included everything we can think of for the whole project would be included. $5 million would be loan forgiveness, so that means we do not have to pay that amount back. They give it to us for free. And so the loan amount would be $13.215 million for that amount. In order to, and then we would kick it out to 30 years so that it would be slightly lower than the projected original cost that we had calculated. So we're calculating up in that section $539,000 per year for 30-year loan. And again, if you compare it to the yellow, that is just under that amount. So we're still going to be within our project range. And again, it sounds like we went up $7 million. How is this possible? But really, it's because we got the $5 million of loan forgiveness that isn't allowed to know what that amount is until after it's awarded. So after we do the award is how they calculate it. So it's confusing, but we feel like it's a pretty opportune time to continue this project, and we hope your support to increase this ordinance from 11.5 million to the 18,215. And then the orange on the end was what we calculated for a bond. At one time we were thinking, okay, if the EPA doesn't give us this money, how would we bond the project? And that's the cost of the bond. So we were fortunate enough that we didn't have to go down that alley, and but it would have been almost over $1 million a year. So almost $400,000 a year more that would have been additional cost. So that's just there to show you what this actually forgives us from. Any questions on that sheet or the project?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure.
Did we have some ARPA funds set aside for some of this as well?
We do. We have $3 million still left in the bank from ARPA funds that we would like to use on road improvements, because the plant going to need roads and facelifts around the plant, roof projects it could be used for. So We were thinking that it could be used as part of that bond to help pay for it, but since the EPA came back and said they would fund it, we felt like we didn't need to include them in this calculation, but we still have them.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anyone else? Let's talk a minute. The $5 million that was given as a loan forgiveness, it appears to me that that's a way to help us reduce our debt service against this.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but we just increased the years from 20 to 30.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I think that's a good move. That's $5 million, and that's a nice way to buy it down and get the project done. I think that's smart. So, okay, that's my comment on it.
But then we'll be back at 30 years, will be time to do this again. That's about the life expectancy, right? 25 to 30 years?
Yep. Probably 30. I'm going to say 100 and make Scott all paranoid.
We won't be here, so that's right.
That's what I was going to say. It's not going to be your problem.
I don't want to say
Somewhere
that.
between
gone.
1 and 100.
All right. Council is absent tonight. Also, I want to acknowledge Irene Weathersby is not here. She did call and is not feeling well tonight, so.
And Mayor, Trustee Robertson also called to indicate he would not be available for this evening's meeting.
All right, sounds good, sounds good. So we miss them both. I hope they're here next week. Now, there's no items to go into closed session for. So, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We're adjourned. Thank you.